So let me go to the media. Let me come over here. There are 5 core principles of journalism. 5 core principles of journalism. There is truth and accuracy, independence, fairness, impartiality, humanity, accountability. So what do these things actually mean? Well, let's look at them. Truth and accuracy. What does truth and accuracy mean? Means that you are actually getting the truth, that you are doing it, you're getting second sources, you're looking for all of the things that are true and accurate. Okay, the relevant facts, give all of those and ensure that they've been checked. Next is independence. Independence. Journalists should not act formally or informally on behalf of any special interest, whether political, corporate, or cultural. That's kind of important. Fairness and impartiality. Stories should be balanced and add context. Impartial reporting builds trust and confidence. Gotta have, this is hysterical to think that this is actually a journalistic standard today. Then there's humanity. What does humanity mean? Well, according to the journalists of textbooks, it means that journalists should do no harm. And 5, accountability. When a journalist commits errors, they have to correct them. And their expressions of regret must be sincere and not cynical. These core principles are exactly why nobody trusts the media anymore, because literally every single one of them are being violated every single day. Now, this used to be the standard, but now it's as if the media is using this as, let's do the opposite, the direct reverse of these principles as their guidebook for propaganda. I've always encouraged you to do your own homework, and I don't want you to take mine or anybody else's word for it on anything. Do not believe me. You must do your own homework. Now, when we aired the first Ukraine special a month ago, I welcomed the mainstream media to do fact-checking, do the work. If we have it wrong, we will admit it. I wanted them to start digging into this. Can you imagine, with the global resources, how far they could further this story in a week? My sincere hope is that they would start doing it now, but I'm not so young and naive anymore. They should have been doing this the whole time. And little by little, the fact checks started coming in. Now, at this point, I'm used to bias from the mainstream media. I'm used to hostility. That's not news, that's the norm. But what we've seen from the media on the Ukraine story specifically goes so far beyond bias. As you're about to see, the media is breaking every single one of their core principles. And it's being done so blatantly that there is absolutely no question what their true intentions are. And it's not to tell you the truth. Democracy dies in darkness? Oh, you damn right. The media is deliberately keeping you into the dark, and they are leading you to even darker places. They are misleading and outright lying to you. Now, those are some big words, but I will back them up with facts. What I'm about to show you is exactly why I say do your own homework. We used to be able to trust outlets like the Washington Post or the New York Times. I don't like people who say, the New York Times never covers this. Well, yeah, I read it. They do. They cover those things. They may spin them, it may be from a different point of view, but they cover those things. They just maybe do one story on page 23 or B32, but they've covered it. Now they're using that trust to further an agenda because they are not independent. It's all part of one of the most massive cover-up operations in the history of American politics, I believe. So what's the goal here? Well, outlets like the Post are scared to death of anyone looking into or asking questions about what the Democrats were doing in Ukraine. Basically, everything I laid out on this mega chalkboard. They don't want anyone to believe any of this because they need this to fall straight on the shoulders of Donald Trump and not on the shoulders of people like Biden and Obama and the rest of his administration. Now, to do that, they've picked several key points on the timeline. And they say that all of this proves this is a conspiracy theory. And I know the look of it doesn't help my case at all, but I get it. So tonight I want to show you their fact check and give you my fact check. And I want to do this in order in the timeline so it makes maybe a little more sense. The first point on the timeline that the media has disputed is the relationship between Alexandra Chalupa, the DNC, and the Ukrainian Embassy. The Chalupa railroading begins right here in late 2016. Now, how are they going to take this apart? Because it's hard for them to dispute, because the DNC, Chalupa, and even the Ukrainian Embassy has already acknowledged at least some level of cooperation between all of them. So, my biggest problem with the media fact checkers is there's a complete lack of follow-through and criticism of the claims by the DNC and Chalupa. Now watch. The Chalupa response, here it is, and I quote, "During the 2016 U.S. election, I was a part-time consultant for the DNC running an ethnic engagement program. I was not an opposition researcher for the DNC, and the DNC never asked me to go to the Ukrainian Embassy to collect information." Okay, so first of all, there's no denying that Chalupa worked for the DNC. She just said that, okay? Undisputed. We have the FEC record that shows the DNC paid Chalupa nearly $72,000 during the 2016 election. By the way, that's a part-time job. That's pretty sweet, but maybe. But where's the scrutiny that you'd expect from investigative journalists like the Post or the Times? Does a part-time ethnic engagement consultant seriously pull $72,000 a year in? Now, here's the result that the Washington Post fact check made on Chalupa. Quote, "Chalupa may have worked with some embassy officials, but there is no evidence that the DNC used the information gathered by Chalupa or that Ukrainians coordinated opposition research with the DNC." Okay. Now I'm going to speak slowly for those members of the press, but let's dissect this conclusion with actual facts that we know. In January 2016, Chalupa reported to the DNC that she believed there was a Russia connection between Manafort and Trump. That same month, the Obama administration held a meeting at the White House instructing Ukrainian prosecutors to look into a case involving Paul Manafort. Could it be a coincidence? Could be. But you think the media might dig a little deeper to find out, okay, that maybe is a coincidence. We also know that Chalupa continued to check in with the DNC as late as May 2016. The topic was always Paul Manafort. Now, how do we know that? Because we have a leaked email. We know that their communications included face-to-face meetings. See this line in the email and see how ethnic it sounds. Quote, "More offline tomorrow since there is a big component of Trump that you and Lauren need to be aware of that will hit in the next few weeks, and something I'm working on that you should be aware of." Maybe it's taco night at the Chalupa house. Or maybe it's just me, but this doesn't sound anything at all like ethnic engagement. And the Post is saying that there is no evidence the DNC used any of Chalupa's information. The email clearly shows that not only was she communicating on these things, but also with Michael Isikoff, the journalist that Christopher Steele used to leak information from his dossier. Now let's see, who was paying for that dossier? Oh, I remember, the DNC. Now what else does the mainstream media need? A notarized copy of a case file with Chalupa's name on it, smuggled out of the DNC headquarters and found in the Ukrainian embassy? And What about the not having evidence that Chalupa, the DNC, the Ukrainian Embassy personnel were working together to get dirt on Donald Trump? Well, in a normal world, not necessarily the parallel alternate universe that we've all slipped into, but in a normal world where the media is actually functioning and following their own 5 core principles of journalism, they'd go directly to the source. Why not ask the Ukrainians? Well, of course, they didn't. But I did. Watch.
When I met her was the first time at the end of March 2016, and I was introduced to her by the DCM at that time, Chular, in a cafe outside the embassy.
Okay, wait, stop for just a second. So this is Andriy Telizhenko. He worked for 2 of the prosecutors, and this time he's working at the embassy where she supposedly was passing information. He was a Ukrainian diplomat assigned to the U.S. Embassy. But did you notice the date that he just said? He said Chalupa was working with the embassy and introduced to him by the Ukrainian ambassador in March 2016. Uh-oh, she's still on the payroll with the DNC. She wouldn't leave the DNC until July. Washington Post, what do you do now? Oh, maybe you should keep listening.
Chalupa introduced herself as a DNC operative, DNC worker. She's collecting dirt on Manafort and Trump. They're going after her because she's almost going to get killed if she does this, but she's still willing to pursue this idea that Russia was involved or Russia's behind Donald Trump. And if I can use my contacts as a high former government official in Ukraine to help her in this investigation and help the DNC and take Trump off the elections through a congressional committee hearing aired by Marcy Kaptur in September 16, and then basically a month right before the election. And afterwards, after this meeting with Chalupa, I started asking questions. I started asking the ambassador, do you know this woman? He says, yes. Charlie, the Ukrainian ambassador in Washington, says, I know Chalupa, you have to work with her. She's a friend of the embassy, and she's doing work that is going to bring some positive aspects to Ukraine.
This is weird, because all of this stuff is on record long before Donald Trump was even on the scene. Certainly not Rudy Giuliani. Did you notice what Andriy said? That she introduced herself as a DNC operative, not working on her own as the media has portrayed her. She told him that they, Chalupa and the DNC, were specifically trying to get dirt on Ukraine or from Ukraine to make the connections between Donald Trump and Russia. Now, how can the Washington Post make their claims about Chalupa without at least mentioning this side of the story? By the way, Andrei's story has already been verified, but why was his testimony excluded? Well, I've just listed one of their major debunking points, and we've already seen the media break all 5 of their principles of journalism in just that one. And I want you to know, it's going to get better from here. This is the most mild of their lies.